What if the day meant to be the happiest of your life became the day you made the biggest mistake of all? David Whitmore thought he had it all: wealth, success, and control over every part of his life. But in a single moment inside a hospital room, his carefully built world came crashing down. Two tiny faces, a shocking discovery, and a decision driven by fear and pride that would haunt him for decades. 25 years later, just when David believes his secret is safe forever, the past comes knocking with eyes just like his enter his boardroom to unravel the truth he ran from. Now, faced with losing everything, his fortune, his health, and the mother of his children, David must make the ultimate choice. Find out in today's story and also let us know where you're listening from. David Whitmore sat in the sterile hospital waiting room, oblivious to the faint hum of fluorescent lights and the cold coffee in his trembling hands. His wife, Elena Navarro, had been rushed into emergency labor 2 months early. As a 28-year-old finance prodigy, David Whitmore had always believed his life followed a clear and controlled trajectory. Every decision he made was deliberate, calculated, and aimed at future success. Sitting in the sterile hospital waiting room, with fluorescent lights buzzing overhead and cold coffee forgotten in his trembling hands, he felt that sense of control slipping away. When the nurse finally emerged with reassuring news, David's legs felt unsteady as he followed her down the hallway. But when he reached the incubator and looked down, the fragile illusion he had constructed shattered instantly. Two tiny babies, delicate yet vivid, lay before him, each with deep brown skin and rich, soulful eyes that starkly contrasted his pale complexion. The sight hit him like a freight train. His mind reeled with confusion and denial. Overwhelmed and unable to face the devastating implications thinking of infidelity, he turned on his heel and fled, his footsteps echoing down the cold hospital corridor as he ran away from the moment that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Fast forward. David Whitmore, now 63, presided over Whitmore and Nash Investment Group in the heart of Cambridge, Massachusetts, a firm he had painstakingly built into a respected regional powerhouse. His life appeared tailored to perfection: luxury cars that gleamed in his Chestnut Hill driveway, an elegant and spacious home filled with curated art, and a wife, Kathy Whitmore, who seamlessly fit into his world of social galas and charity events. Yet, beneath the polished surface, subtle cracks had begun to appear. The financial markets had been volatile for months, but the true blow came when his longtime CFO, Charlie Meyer, delivered devastating news. Their company's future hung by a thread. As David grappled with the prospect of his empire crumbling, an unexpected lifeline arrived in the form of the enigmatic Morgan twins, young and powerful investors who emerged seemingly out of nowhere with an offer that could either rescue him or unravel his carefully guarded past. The moment Sophia Navarro Whitmore and Julian Navarro Whitmore entered the boardroom, David's facade fractured. Their sharp hazel eyes, his eyes, left no room for doubt. They revealed the truth. They were his children. Every doubt he had buried over the decades now surged to the surface, engulfing him in a torrent of guilt and confusion. The sharp resemblance was undeniable. Their eyes, expressions, even their subtle mannerisms reflected his own. His sins had not only returned, but had grown into brilliant, poised investors who exuded confidence and clarity, traits he had once prided himself on. The realization struck him with overwhelming force. These were no longer the helpless infants he had once abandoned in a haze of fear and prejudice. They were powerful, self-made adults who had conquered adversity without him. It was in this unsettling silence that David understood the magnitude of his past choices. Business was discussed, but beneath it simmered years of pain and unanswered questions. At the Harborview room, they met again. This time, Elena Navarro, the mother, joined them. Time had etched lines across her face, but her grace remained intact. Over seafood and strained conversation, David faced brutal truths about his past and the depth of his cowardice. Despite the bitterness, and perhaps because of the honesty shared, Elena and the twins agreed to invest in David's company, recognizing that saving Whitmore and Nash could provide security for countless employees. Yet, even after the decision was made, the emotional cost lingered heavily in the air like a storm waiting to break. Forgiveness, David knew, was still far from earned. Then came Elena's devastating revelation: stage 3 renal failure. The twins, Sophia and Julian, were immediately tested, but the results were devastating. Neither was a compatible match for donation. David, seeing an opportunity to finally step up and make amends for his past failures, did not hesitate. Driven by a mixture of guilt and genuine desire to help Elena, he volunteered without a second thought. He underwent rigorous testing, clinging to the hope that fate would offer him this one chance at redemption. Yet fate proved cruel once more. The medical team returned with somber expressions and the crushing revelation that David himself had early-stage kidney disease. His condition, though not yet severe, was serious enough to disqualify him from being a donor. The blow was shattering. Just as he was finally ready to act selflessly, his own body had betrayed him, leaving him powerless and consumed by a new wave of helplessness and sorrow. As despair loomed, Dr. Alan Kaplan from St. Catherine's Transplant Institute proposed an experimental transplant option. Risky but possible. David agreed without hesitation, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. Even as Teresa, his wife of many years, stood coldly across from him, announcing that their marriage was over and that she could no longer continue alongside a man whose secrets ran so deep, David remained unwavering. The man who had once run from responsibility, who fled from the sight of his newborn children and the chaos he thought he couldn't face, was now transformed. No longer ruled by cowardice, he now stood ready to confront danger head-on. In the face of experimental surgery and the real possibility of sacrificing his own health, David did not flinch. This time, instead of turning away, he stepped forward willingly into the unknown, determined to right his wrongs and save the woman he had once so cruelly abandoned. During tense pre-surgery days, David, Sophia, and Julian found themselves sharing far more than hospital meals and fleeting glances. Slowly but surely, they began to bond in ways none of them had expected. They spoke of childhood memories David had missed, of the milestones that had shaped Sophia and Julian into the strong adults they had become, and of the regrets that weighed heavily on David's heart. As they shared stories late into the evenings, the twins began to see David not just as the man who had abandoned them, but as someone desperately seeking redemption and a second chance to make things right. It wasn't easy. Old wounds ached and anger still simmered, but a mutual understanding started to take root. Elena, witnessing the tentative healing among them, became the first to offer David forgiveness. Her words were soft, yet they carried the immense weight of years of pain and acceptance. That simple act of grace became a turning point, making space for hope to take hold amidst the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Surgery day. With Sophia and Julian waiting anxiously outside, their faces etched with worry and silent prayers, David was wheeled into the operating room. Hours ticked by in agonizing slowness for Sophia and Julian, who paced the waiting area, clinging to hope yet fearing the worst. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the surgeon emerged with a tired but reassuring smile, delivering the news that the surgery had been completed successfully. David, though weak and disoriented, woke up surrounded by caring nurses and the sterile, quiet hum of the recovery room. His first thoughts were not of his own pain, but of Elena. Moments later, news arrived. Elena's body had accepted the kidney. Against all odds, the gamble had worked. The sacrifice David had made, risking his own health and future, had paid off. Tears of relief and gratitude flowed freely as Sophia and Julian rushed in to see their father, their faces breaking into relieved smiles. Gratitude filled the sterile hospital room, mingling with newfound respect and a fragile but growing sense of family that none of them had dared to hope for. Weeks passed in Baltimore. Between follow-ups and therapy, family dinners became routine. Conversations shifted from business to memories. The twins confessed their curiosity about their father. The door to true reconciliation creaked open. As they prepared to leave for New York and Boston, the future no longer felt fragmented. David agreed to remain as a consultant for Whitmore Legacy Investments. More importantly, Elena, Sophia, Julian, and David agreed to Friday dinners, a simple act symbolizing the rebirth of a family. For the first time in decades, David Whitmore wasn't defined by fear or pride. He had lost his marriage, his image, and some of his health, but he had found something far greater, the courage to face his children and earn his place in their lives step by step. It was, without question, the most important investment of his life. What do you think of today's story? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for listening to Storyline Narratives.